presenter. It's Rohan Dixit. Rohan, are you ready?
Sure. You should be able to hear me now. I called in to make sure the quality was a little better, but
okay.
We'll go started and we'll just try to make do with that connection.
So are you ready to present?
Terrific. So my name is Rohan. I'm the CEO of Lief Therapeutics. We are a smart patch that is designed to both diagnose and treat all of the most common mental health conditions that we see in common clinical practice. We do that with a Class 2 FDA medical device, which we have launched on the market. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why we find that so interesting and potentially useful for people. So before I jump into it, a little bit of background about me. I'm a neuroscientist by training, not a clinician. Both my parents are clinicians, so I feel like I'm amongst. I've heard some of the stories, perhaps, of what clinical life is like, and I think one thing that I got consistently from my parents, and that I also experienced myself as a young adult, struggling with anxiety and depression, is that the current sort of clinical care process for behavioral health is quite broken, right? Where almost all fields of medicine use data, biomarker data specifically. But unfortunately, in mental health, that is for mental health biomarkers to try to understand disease progression in a way that that allows us to understand how a patient is doing over time and when a patient is getting better. Before I jump into some of the kind of diagnostic results that we've shown, are you guys all able to hear me well enough through the internet connection that I have?
Sure, there's a slight delay, but yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. So what you are looking at is the first piece of Lief Therapeutics, which I think is in and of itself quite revolutionary, and that is the to my knowledge, the first objective biomarker assay for mental health conditions. So we're showing data here for 900 patients where we show that we have a recall rate, essentially an accuracy rate in machine learning terms of 94% in predicting whether somebody is clinically anxious according to the GAD, which is a very commonly used subjective questionnaire of mental health. But we're doing this in a 5-minute physiological test, right? So this is sort of what we believe is the beginning of a future around objective mental health. But the device that we built at Lief goes beyond just measuring and diagnostics. What we've been able to do is integrate into the patch itself a real-time therapy tracking as a diagnostic, which is heart rate variability, or HRV. For those of you that are familiar with this biomarker, it is sort of the missing link that mental health has been looking for many, many years. The mind-body connection seems to be, in some ways, quite well represented by this one biomarker. Traditionally, kind of interpreted as the millisecond timescale variations between one heartbeat and the next. What we have done on the therapeutic side around this biomarker is, one, we're able to use machine learning to understand when a patient is, for example, feeling anxious. The patch, the device turns itself on, feedback, heart rate variability biofeedback, which is essentially, you can think of almost like a form of quantified meditation. One of our advisors, Dick Averts, who is the inventor of HRV biofeedback more than 30 years ago, calls it a brand new technology that's 2,000 years old. And there's a lot of truth to that, because what we've essentially been able to do is to take something as helpful as mindfulness for mental health and quantify it and turn it into a tool that can be prescribed by physicians as well as covered by insurance. So this is sort of the loop that that we have sort of created at Lief, and you can think of it almost analogous to a continuous blood glucose monitor for mental health. So, you know, how does an integrated work, right? So you're tracking. The device is watching as those levels change out of a band where they are in a quote unquote healthy state, and then the device prescribes a precision amount of insulin to close that loop. And the Lief device is really that sort of system, that closed loop system, but for mental health. We're using HRV, heart rate variability, and machine learning as a biomarker for when the body is entering a state of anxiety or perhaps depression, PTSD, substance use, it's in line. And the device can turn on by using vibrations to guide the user's breathing in a way that is shown to improve this biomarker. As the biomarker reaches a normal zone, the device turns itself off. So you get these micro-precise doses of this intervention that are biometrically dosed to the user. We are covered by most insurance plans. We use the remote patient monitoring code. We are ECG, single lead ambulatory ECG device. We charge $49 per month for our device, and $99 if you want to pair it with a coach. We just published a clinical trial, which I'm happy to share with you guys, where we showed we can decrease anxiety symptoms 62% in just 8 weeks and improve this biomarker HRV by almost 50%. We have been in the market now. We've raised about $1.8 million in a pre-seed, generated $1 million from that, released a medical device to market with an average NPS, Net Promoter Score of 100 in our clinical trial, which is unheard of. Like, you can't get better, so it's good. And have about 3,000 users so far. This is a little bit of our monthly revenue tracking over time. We're about $750, $250,000 run rate now, but increasing exponentially. We have partnered with Optum and their behavioral health and particularly telepsychiatry division called Genoa Telepsychiatry. This is something that we're rolling out more this year in 2021, but it allows us to basically have 3,500 telepsychiatrists in our app available to our users in 35 states, which is very helpful. And we are also launching in the CVS Health Hub that happened actually on Monday. CVS is sort of trying to reimagine itself as a healthcare delivery company. Mental health they see as the number one opportunity there, and they've brought us in to be that sort of mental health tool. We have a great team from Dr. Ron Garbo, who gave a presentation earlier today, Dr. Canning, who's a Stanford clinical psychologist, some great folks, Abbott, Medtronic, et cetera, and a wonderful team that has helped bring this device to market on a fairly limited budget. The way that we see this going over time, just very quickly to give you the high-level overview, we have released a device that is primarily geared towards mild and moderate anxiety. That's the most common behavioral health condition people see today. But we envision ourselves over time becoming a diagnostic, regulated diagnostic therapeutic for a variety of mental health conditions, because HRV, this biomarker that we track, actually correlates in some cases is causal to other conditions, depression, PTSD, bipolar condition, trauma, panic disorder, etc. So it's extremely exciting for us to kind of look forward into a future of data-driven mental health, where we're able to offer patients a non-drug solution to track how they're doing objectively, and also to intervene on their own body in a way that is really self-empowering for a lot of patients. So thank you for your time. We are currently, I guess I should mention, raising a $5 million round. We just closed the first million of that last week. And our goal is really to expand on our telemedicine partnerships, our retail partnerships like CVS, et cetera, and our direct-to-consumer telemedicine offerings, and ramp our revenue from about $1 million at the end of this year to $10 million at the end of next year. So if you're interested in learning more, please feel free to reach out. hello@getleaf.com, and we'd love to talk to you.
Thank you, Rohan. Judges?
Two quick questions, Rohan. Great talk. One, the HRV you showed as your example is pretty freaking low. How old was that patient? Because 21 as a start is really pretty bad. Two, okay, I'll answer that one first.
Yeah, that's my HRV. I have anxiety, which is why I invented this. It's not good.
Okay, I shouldn't have outed you.
Okay, it's okay. That's why I've got to leave.
Okay, two, do you have an estimate? Currently, you've been in being used for some time now. Do you have any charts on your user retention?
We do. So we have an 8-week program that we guide people through. Essentially, we're teaching them over those 8 weeks to understand their HRV and to learn how to modulate it through biofeedback. And really, at the end of that 8 weeks, they've learned the skill. But we tend to see our users, our consumer users, stay on for about 3.5 months after that, on average. And in our clinical patients, we've seen retention around a year and counting. So our medical device product is about a year old, so we don't know how long that extends, but there seems to be stickier in a population that, ostensibly is showing more symptoms.